the assumption that if you are with a terrorist when a terrorist gets killed, the presumption is that you are a terrorist as well, even if we don't even know who you are, right? Isn't that part of the reason you're able to make these assertions?
I'm not going to get into the specifics of the process by which, these decisions are made.
That was a controversy day before yesterday in the White House after new reports of all these civilian casualties, after Obama administration ordered drone attacks against top-level al-Qaeda terrorists. And, of course, the human rights organizations claiming that there's all sorts of collateral damage being done in the name of keeping America safe. And you saw how that press conference went down. Jay Carney didn't want to go anywhere near that. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to talk about it. I find it interesting because after we had this parade of apologies in 2009, where the president went around the world saying, well, we're different now, we're not a nation of torturers, et cetera, et cetera. And now we see on issue after issue, whether it's keeping Gitmo open or continuing drone attacks, celebrating the taking out of top al-Qaeda people, and of course Osama bin Laden himself. Aren't we continuing the most aggressive of actions that the Bush administration should get credit for in the war against the jihadists? And is anyone going to point that out? Joining us now, I'm delighted he's with us, my old friend, former Secretary of Defense and author. His book, of course, is now out in paperback, Known and Unknown. And he joins us now. Mr. Secretary, it's great to see you. How are you, sir?
I'm terrific. Thank you.
It's wonderful to see you. And I have to confess something right before we get into this issue and talk about Syria. I have to confess this, that just moments before you came into the studio, I was crouched below the window so you couldn't see me, and I was drying my hair.
It looks pretty good to me.
See, you should have been in the diplomatic corps. Forget Secretary of Defense. Well, I had let it slip my mind that you were actually going to be in the studio, so I had a wet head. So I had to get my friends down the hall to give me a blow dryer, and I had to crouch there so you didn't see me. That's vanity, or is that it's just being ill prepared for my own show? See, I knew that you would like that, and your wife will laugh at that too. Joyce will laugh at it. So let's talk about this difficult situation, and it really does, in an interesting dovetail with what you wrote about in your book. The things that you know, the things you don't know, in the ever-shifting world of geopolitics and national security. And, of course, reports out over the last several days that al-Qaeda is whipping in the Middle East. People are whipping up people into a frenzy because there have been some civilians killed as the terrorists have burrowed their way into these civilian areas.
That's the pattern of terrorists, is they not only operate without uniforms, without carrying their weapons openly, and they bury themselves among civilians, and they kill civilians. And the purpose is to terrorize. It's to alter behavior, and it's effective. You're quite right about the structures that the Bush administration put in place of the Patriot Act and Guantanamo and indefinite detention. And the interrogation process, and they are still there, except for interrogations. And that is an area where they have not proceeded. They are doing the drone attacks, and they have the capability to do that because of the investments that were made during the Bush administration to build up the special operation forces, to increase the number of drones.
Are you surprised by the fact that President Obama has kept in place so many of the Bush administration strategies?
I am, in one sense, because he campaigned against them so hard. On the other hand, once you get into office and look at the alternatives, there really are not any wonderful, problem-free alternatives. And no one in the Bush administration got up in the morning and said, my goodness, isn't this a wonderful thing we're able to do? Instead, we looked up and said, well, we just had 3,000 people killed. We have a problem around the world, and the terrorist has the advantage because the terrorist is on the attack. And you can't defend in every place, at every location, against every conceivable type of attack. Therefore, the only choice you have is to go after them and to gather intelligence information and to try to track down the networks. And you're not you're not dealing with people who have a country to defend. You're dealing with people who are simply a shadowy network.
When you're watching what's transpiring in Syria and mass killings, children targeted execution style, and the international community, whatever that means, I never know what that means when I hear the international community. The international community should do something. I mean, this is the call we've heard from even the Romney camp and others. What can be done when Russia and China are standing strong against any military involvement in the region, given the fact that they have such strong ties to Syria and, by extension, strong ties to Iran, making this entire region so unstable? What are our alternatives there?
If you look across the spectrum, they go from doing nothing all the way over to using ground forces. And you're quite right about the international community. It's not really a community at all. It's a whole set of 170 or 80 countries with different opinions and different histories and different cultures. The in-between are the obvious things. I mean, there's covert action. There are economic sanctions. They're withdrawing diplomats, which has taken place. They're the kind of assistance of supplying weapons to opposition forces, using air power, and, as I said at the far end, using ground forces. It is not knowable, I will say, as to what will result if and when the Assad regime is overthrown. It's a minority regime, Alawites. They do not have broad support in the country. There is the problem between Shia and Sunni that exists not just simply in Syria, but across the region. And, I mean, his father killed somewhere between 10 and 20,000 people in Hamas back when he was in power. So this is nothing new, the slaughter and the butchery that takes place in a dictatorial system of that type.
How do you rate the administration's handling of this so far?
It's hard for me to know what they're doing, really. They've withdrawn diplomats, as I understand it, and I hope...
Romney seems to think that this is another sign of a bungled approach to foreign policy, or a hodgepodge approach to foreign policy without any really clear direction. And I think the commentary from the right has generally been, it's another sign of America in decline, that we don't seem to be leading. We seem to be waiting for things to happen there. What's
the lead from behind strategy that was used? See, I don't know if anyone, the United States or some of our friends or allies, are engaged in covert action. And I don't know if people are engaged in their attempting to sort through what the opposition forces might look like and what might result. I don't know the role to which Israel might be involved.
Apparently some of the rebel leaders today are saying that Kofi Annan should announce that the peace plan is dead. It was never alive. Yeah, that the peace plan has failed to free insurgents from any commitment to a ceasefire deal, and it's over. I mean, you kind of see how it's gone down just by Kofi Annan's presence there, sitting with the Syrian leadership. And meanwhile, then you have all of this bloodshed and the shelling and the bombing, people running for their lives in the streets, women trying to cross a bridge yesterday with their son's hand blown off. I mean, what does the ceasefire mean that is enforced by what?
Yeah. You know, if you think of the behavior pattern with respect to North Korea, the behavior pattern with respect to Iran, it's people repeating their same behavior pattern, expecting to get a different result. And there hasn't been a different result through successive administrations in North Korea or in Iran. And the situation in Syria, whether or not the regime will end at some point is unclear to me. But he has around him a lot of his father's tough, very experienced people. And they are using every resource at their power to repress any revolution or any revolt against them. And they're determined to stay in power. That's what a dictator does. He gets up every morning and says, how do I stay in power? And the answer is, you kill people.
Do you get personally upset when you're attacked? I mean, from Bill Maher, we don't have to play the bites, from Bill Maher and Chris Matthews and And people on the left, I mean, they use terms like war criminal, and this is what's caused this nation to be in a position of almost permanent recoiling now away from war. We're war weary because of what the Bush administration did. What is your reaction when you hear those criticisms still?
Oh, goodness, I don't think about it really much. If you do something, somebody's not going to like it. Dogs don't bark at parked cars. If somebody gets up and acts, there's going to be some people who agree with it, and a lot of people do, and some people who don't. And I feel very good about my public service, and I it's almost amusing if you think about it that we went out and captured people and interrogated them, or CIA did, and the president is apparently, according to the press, targeting people and killing them, not capturing them and interrogating them, but killing them.
The enemies list you're referring to.
Yeah, that type of thing. And doing what Lyndon Johnson did in terms of targeting individuals to be killed. That is a first, pretty much, and or a second, I should say. I don't think that's really a role for a president to be picking targets myself, but that's it seems to me you develop a strategy at that level, and then the military forces execute a strategy. But
the report in the New York Times about the, quote, enemies list, and again, this is the president's giving the final go-ahead for the assassination of individuals abroad that they determine, and it's not just him, but they say 100 people are involved in the decision-making, but the ultimate decision, the kill decision, is made by the president. It's almost like the deck of cards. Remember in Iraq where you had the deck of cards, the most violent of the targets there. Why do you think they leaked that? So that's clearly that was a strategic leak to the New York Times during a time where people think we're not doing enough in Syria. Right. We're kind of feckless there. Yeah. Do you think could have been a strategy behind that leak?
It feels like it to me. I think the most egregious leak I've seen is this information that's been put out about this doctor. I mean, how in the world do our agents, our people in our country, get other countries and individuals to cooperate with us if we compromise their cooperation and make them subject to attacks by others, whether it's a terrorist attack or a government? It is, I think, just a terrible, terrible thing to do, and it will inevitably. The leaks about how our special operations forces have operated with respect to the killing of Saddam Hussein, which in and of itself was a good thing, but then the hemorrhaging of information out of the White House, I think, puts at risk American forces in a unacceptable and harmful way. And I think the information about this doctor, if it's true, is inexcusable. People all across the globe that we ask to assist us are going to tuck in and say, well, how can I assist you if you're incapable of managing your affairs in a competent way and protecting my identity?
Well, it's always, I think about people you tell something in confidence to, and then the trust is shattered. You never trust the person again. Yeah. I mean, at least I don't. When someone gives me his word or her word, it doesn't go farther than the two of us. In this case, it's life and death, of potentially thousands of Americans. We need these people to do this. We need these people. And from their standpoint, not just them, but their families. They put their families at risk. Should we send in an extraction team to try to get him out? Should we have done that?
I don't know enough about the situation to make a recommendation like that. There's apparently some issue as to whether it was a religious court that acted or a state court on the part of the government of Pakistan. It seems to me that it's important with Pakistan that we've got to recognize that they're important to us and they're different from us. And we're not going to have a perfect relationship.
Do you like Romney?
I do. I'm hopeful that he'll be elected.
And are you going to see the president today, that he's going to the portrait hanging at the White House? Were you invited to that?
I was, and I'm scheduled to go.
Give him my best. Give him my best. Tell him
Which one?
Both, actually. Both. I know both. I know. I don't know which one likes me less.
Do you want to sign a book for the Obama Diaries?
I will give you a copy of the Obama Diaries to deliver to the White House in just a few moments. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, his book, and I've actually given it to a number of my friends, and Thank you for coming. It's out in paperback, a memoir, Known and Unknown. And he looks like he's about 60. It makes me so mad every time I see him. Like, are you reverse aging? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, great to see you. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld on The Laura Ingraham Show.
The Laura Ingraham Show.